Our story today takes place in 3 time periods. The past, amongst the memories of a brand new rhythm game with a clever little gimmick involving lifting your hands in the air. The present, where that blossoming rhythm game became one of the most popular arcade rhythm games today, with ambitious collabs and fans around the world. And the future, in a world where that game has met its end. Chunithm is an arcade rhythm game developed by Sega, available in Japan and certain Asian regions. Since its release in July of 2015, it has grown to be a very popular arcade rhythm game with fans all around the world. Fast forward to 2025 and 2026, and Sega is celebrating the 10-year anniversary of Chunithm up to this point. While this year's KOP featured the reveal and release of Verse X, which was also created with the intention of celebrating 10 years of Chunithm, there's also Linked Verse, the main topic of today's video. Linked Verse is a mode in Chunithm X Verse, which presents the player with several gates. Each gate represents a version and can be cleared while matching with a party of up to 4 people online. During a Linked Verse play, all of the players' healths will be visible on screen. Each gate has a life amount and a penalty for getting certain judgments. Each player has their own health, and if any single person survives, all the players in the party clear the gate. If you die early, you aren't useless, as all players can heal the alive players by hitting a certain amount of combo, and you can heal the players that are alive even when you're dead, so you can't give up until the very end. There's a story in Linked Verse too, so let's start from the beginning, at Gate Origin. Gate Origin released on July 16th, 2025, exactly 10 years to the date of the release of the original Chunithm. We're introduced to Uni, an AI navigator from an alternate verse. She explains that Chunithm as a whole uses stories from many different verses to generate music. As of X-Verse, the current version of Chunithm at the time this event started, the connections to the other verses became unstable, and we need to restore the connections to them. She promises that if we help to fix the connections, we get to play new songs, and with that, we head into the first gate. 10 years ago, in the original Chunithm, the player faced off with the legendary Ikazuchi. Roughly translated to Hammer of Anger, Ikazuchi is largely regarded as the game's first boss song, and is also one of its most famous even to this day. Composed by the legend himself, Takenobu Mitsuyoshi, this brutal song challenged players greatly back then, as even by modern Chunithm difficulty scale standards, this is a 15.4, making it quite difficult. The choir section in the middle is very iconic, and it's a great boss song for one so early in the game's life. So what better a song for Gate Origin than a follow-up to the Hammer of Anger? Kaminari is the sequel to Ikazuchi and the first linked verse song. Composed by the artist Riger and featuring Mitsuyoshi, this brutal follow-up steals a lot of similar patterns and motifs from Ikazuchi. And listening to the song, it's very obvious the influence of the original on this one. It even features another choir section, as was in Ikazuchi. Namuwiki supposes, based on Mitsuyoshi's posts about the song, that Riger is likely just an alias of Mitsuyoshi's, and he flexes his composing prowess here in our first gate. Uni explains that these new songs are called alter rhythms, a song that was transformed by a glitch in the verse. This creates callbacks and sequel songs related to that particular verse. At the end of this gate, Uni also asks the player what their favorite rhythm game is, other than Chunithm. There's even some games that aren't Sega games. This is important later, do not forget. A few weeks later, on August 7th, 2025, Gate Air appeared. Uni comments on how Chunithm in this verse is much different than the Chunithm in her verse, with people coalescing at game centers. She refers to Chunithm from her verse as Uhunithm to distinguish between the two. But just keep in mind that they are the same thing, she just calls it Uhunithm. With that, the next gate opens. Back in the past, in Chunithm Air, players were faced with two now infamous boss songs. The first is Tiamat F minor. Composed by Team Grimoire, this gothic hardcore boss song really exemplifies the style that Team Grimoire was known for at the time. The master is a 15.3 in the current scale, being what I would call an arm killer chart. It requires pure power out of the player and is extremely exhausting. The song's style really captures the sound of a boss song, especially for the time. The second boss song is the finale boss song from Chunithm Air Plus, colloquially referred to as Kondon or Chaos due to its long Japanese title. Composed by Daisuke Anayama, compared to Tiamat, Kondon takes on a much more ominous orchestral style rather than that of the hardcore style seen in Tiamat. Kondon is a ridiculously difficult chart, especially for the time it was released. The second half is absolutely unrelenting. In current scale, this is a 15.5, putting it into 15 plus territory. With the powers of these two boss songs combined, a truly difficult challenge awaited the players in Gate Air. With Anayama and Grimoire combined comes Trunembra, a gothic hardcore song that manages to be higher difficulty than both its predecessors, coming in at a staggering 15.6. Tons of fast patterns and small notes absolutely assault the players in this chart, making it a truly difficult challenge. Namawiki notes that while both composers are credited, the song resembles a lot more of Tiamat than Kondon, with that more gothic hardcore style definitely taking the lead, resembling those super popular gothic hardcore boss songs of the era that Tiamat was released. The connection is restored, and we move on to the next gate. On September 4th, 2025, Gate Star opened. Uni admits that she's here because the state of Chunithm is actually not good, and they've been unable to generate new songs in Chunithm due to being unable to link to verses. So she connected to our verse to figure out a way to fix the links. Stepping back into Chunithm Star, we meet with another very famous boss song from the Chunithm series, World Vanquisher. World Vanquisher, composed by Void, is the final boss of Chunithm Star. Where Tiamat and Kondon added difficulty via power and speed, World Vanquisher takes a different approach with a more technically focused but still intensely difficult chart. It is rated the same difficulty as Kondon, 15.5 in the current scale, but takes a much different approach to chart difficulty with a myriad of flick notes and awkward small note patterns designed to cause misses at every turn. This song once again takes on an ominous orchestral kind of feel, though does feature some EDM elements here and there. The choir parts in particular add a dramatic touch to the song, and the Shran-style bass kicks in the chorus add a very memorable feel to the finale. This became a very iconic boss song in Chunithm, and it was only natural that Gate Star would connect back to this. Stepping back ever so slightly from the pure difficulty increase we've been seeing so far, Void brings us the sequel to World Vanquisher with Everything Will Be One. Amplifying the standout elements of World Vanquisher, it calls back to the original with dramatic vocals and those heavy Shran's kicks we know from before. The vocal in this song is very prominent, detailing a fragmented, broken down world that should be united into one, though the vocalist also mentions vanquishing the world again. So maybe this is a I will reunite the world by destroying it situation? I don't really know, but the song is great and it carries on the legacy of the original real well. Another gate down, Uni waits for the next one to appear. On October 1st, 2025, Gate Amazon opened. After talking with Navi, Uni says that despite the efforts to reconnect to the verses, the 6 gates present won't generate enough energy to restore Chunithm. She thinks there might be another way via creating a patch from the Algorithm's code, but thinks it's risky and has to think on it more. For now, it's time to reconnect to Amazon. Back in Amazon, players were confronted with 2 classic Japanese hardcore boss songs to challenge their power and speed. The first is Usao's Climax. Being only a 15 on the current difficulty scale, this chart has sort of sat at the edges of the difficulty ranges that it has been rated at, often being discussed as being too easy for the difficulty that it was rated at, and it hasn't ever really escaped that reputation. Despite that, it remains a classic Chunithm song, though as Namawiki mentions, a bit low difficulty by boss song standards. The second is DJ Myosuke's Killing Rhythm. A pure power check chart coming in at 15.3 on the current scale, Killing Rhythm is an exhausting onslaught for any player that takes it on. Killing Rhythm and Climax both put an emphasis on power in terms of the songs and the charts, and it would come as no surprise that Gate Amazon was about to produce more of the same. With Usao and DJ Myosuke returning for their revenge, Outrage presents the players with an absolutely brutal power challenge, with an especially difficult second half that both calls back to Killing Rhythm and Climax, while also presenting the players with all new note-based horrors to comprehend, with brutally fast overhand flick patterns and extremely difficult note sections. This is a true power checker chart and a fantastic follow-up to the power charts of older versions. On November 5th, 2025, Gate Crystal opened. At the beginning of Gate Crystal, Uni is thinking over the discussion from last time about a possible dangerous method of restoring Chunithm. She doesn't want to do anything dangerous, but after seeing all the Chunithm players enjoying the game and trying their hardest, she realizes there are probably a lot of players in her world waiting for Chunithm to return too, and she vows to try her best to restore it. Taking another look into the past, we find ourselves at Chunithm Crystal. The final boss of Crystal was Shukusei Shimpan, or Mercury Judgment. Some may not know that Suzu is actually an alias of Wa, creator of several famous BMS works like Black Lotus, Lisa Lot, or Akasa Garba. Coming in at 15.5 in the current scale, Shukusei provides players with another more technical boss challenge, in particular the second half of the chart being relatively dense with technical note patterns, requiring players to maintain a balance of speed and precision. Combining that with the difficult and somewhat visually confusing ending pattern makes this a chart to be reckoned with, even if some may suppose that this is on the lower end of the 15+ rated songs. Seeing as this is the final boss of Crystal, a new challenge from Suzu was sure to follow. Loosely translated as the shining cycle of reincarnation, Suzu returns with a direct sequel to Shukusei, similarly styled in both song and chart, largely relying on technical note patterns instead of fast arm movements or large amounts of lifts. The small note patterns are particularly brutal, and the master chart also features some direct callbacks to Shukusei's chorus and ending patterns, making for a difficult challenge. With only one gate to go in X-Verse, we move on to the final gate in the version. Finally, on November 27th, 2025, Gate Paradise opened. Uni steels herself and has made up her mind to try to complete the patch needed for restoration of Chunithm. And so, we step into the gate and return to Paradise. The beginning of everything was here. The final bastion of the Paradise series. The ending of this story. The final boss song of Paradise and of the original series of Chunithm versions before Chunithm New is colloquially known and shortened simply to Inori. The ultimate Chunithm boss song, with a staggeringly large composer list consisting of Mitsuyoshi from Ikazuchi, Anayama from Kondon, Kai from Rebellion, as well as Kenji Mizuno, known for Kimitsuya in Mai Mai, and Kanon Oguni, known for Flame Seal 135 Seconds, also in Mai Mai. These 5 composers teamed up to create the unholy, or holy I suppose, final boss of the first era of Chunithm, with a brutally difficult current scale 15.7. At the time of release, the master chart of Inori had the most notes of any chart in the game. I don't really know what to say about this one other than that the chart is completely insane. These dramatic, operatic Chunithm boss songs already have a reputation of being extremely difficult, and being the ultimate boss of classic Chunithm certainly did not mean they would be letting the players off easy. Small note sections, fast hold / lifting sections, intense power sections, Inori has it all. It's just really damn hard. A fitting final boss for the finale of Paradise, and one that still challenges players today. Uni was unsure if these connections would be enough to restore Chunithm. You better believe that whatever's behind Gate Paradise is going to be pretty insane if we are going to generate enough energy. Featuring Blackie, Yu, and Siramaru, the artists behind Mai Mai's Gigantomachia, as well as Zai and Morimori Atsushi, the duo behind Sound Voltex's Sudden Death, Sega gave us Kizu. This song is actually a bit controversial in the rhythm game fandom. Despite the composer list, I think it's fair to say that this song more strongly resembles Morimori and Zai's style than the other composers. And honestly, the song is quite compositionally similar to Sudden Death in many ways. with some people even calling it Sudden Death 2. Regardless of the song itself, it certainly served its purpose as a difficult follow-up to the Boss of Paradise, with an absolutely unforgiving assault of notes for basically the entire runtime of the chart. Brutal extended flick sections, fast note patterns, and power sections will leave you on the floor. The master chart took the title of New Highest Note Count, not long after Kaminari's master took it earlier in X-Verse, really showing that the limits of the game were being pushed higher during this event. With the completion of Kizu, Navi is able to generate the patch and apply it to Uni. The update succeeds, and their verse is now able to connect to other verses again, allowing them to generate new songs and begin to gain the power required to restore Chunithm. In the middle of the celebration, however, a strange glitch occurs and Uni's behavior changes, sending a mysterious message to the player that this newfound power will be too much for Uni to handle, and that the player needs to help Uni going forward. Uni returns to normal and confirms that the generation of new songs in her verse has begun, concluding the X-Verse arc of Linked Verse. But there are surely more trials to come. On the same day as the new Chunithm version release, titled X-Verse X, Uni returned, and with her a new gate, Gate New. Uni is ready to connect to new gates and generate new songs. We're dealing with a bit more recent history here in this arc, but nonetheless, let's take a trip back to Chunithm New. Featuring an artist never before seen in Chunithm up to this point, Chunithm New's boss song, Yuki Otoko, provided the Chunithm debut for Kaneko Chiharu, probably most known for their boss songs in Sound Voltex like Lacrima and Illness Lilin. Namewiki notes that this song could actually be a partner to the Sound Voltex song Yuki Onna, also by Kaneko Chiharu, due to the name. However, the styles of songs are pretty different, so it might just be a small nod. Coming in at 15.2, Yuki Otoko certainly isn't the hardest chart we've seen today, but being at 256 BPM means this chart features a ton of power-heavy patterns that you need to be ready for, with fast trills and air notes. The chorus is particularly memorable, and I think this song is looked back on pretty favorably. A strong start to the new era of Chunithm boss songs, and it made a great candidate to base our alter rhythm on. Gate New certainly resets the power level we were dealing with by the end of X-Verse, but Roku Rokubi is still no slouch. Namewiki notes that while the overall BPM is lower, the density of notes is still quite high to make up for the loss of pure power required in Yuki Otoko. It features a slightly more hardcore style compared to the original, and the ending is quite technical and fast. A tricky start to the new set of gates. Uni is pleased to find that her new power to generate songs is working as intended, and patiently awaits the next gate's opening. On February 5th, 2026, Gate Sun opened. Uni reports to the player that she was able to successfully generate a ton of songs. As a quick aside, I really like how on the English translation page, they point out that Uni is likely referencing the other storylines within Chunithm here, indicating that Uni has really started to take full advantage of her new power. She thanks the player for helping her achieve this power, and we head into Gate Sun. Taking a look back at Chunithm Sun gives us a look at two boss songs made by two iconic producers. The first is Ground Slider Concerto No. 1 by Sakuzyo. If you're into rhythm games at all, Sakuzyo needs no introduction, being known for their variety of contributions to rhythm games. Notably, Sakuzyo often supplies songs of a more orchestral or piano-heavy nature, and that's what we see here in Ground Slider. Coming in at 15.6 current scale and embracing the piano composition, the master chart is a brutal wash of 1/8 sized notes, providing a technically difficult assault of rhythms and note placement. There are actually no slide notes at all in this chart, which is quite rare. The other boss song of note here is Daphnis by Sobrum. A comparatively more up-and-coming, or maybe recently hot artist, Sobrum is also known for making more instrumental pieces for rhythm games, notably jazz songs with densely complex rhythms designed to stump players at every turn. Also a 15.6 current scale, Daphnis is the follow-up to Giselle, a famous BMS song also composed by Sobrum under the alias Widowmaker. Though it is a piano-heavy track, it also features a dubstep breakdown, and is on the whole a similarly technical track to Ground Slider, with lots of small notes and techie hold sections. These two boss songs certainly provide a challenge, so why not have these artists team up for something truly tough? Sakuzyo and Sobrum have teamed up to create a nightmarish jazz boss song, sure to brutalize players. Somewhat comically, this song credits the artists as Sakuzyo or Sobrum. To my knowledge, the first time an "or" has been used to combine two artists together for a song credit. The song itself pretty heavily resembles the style of some of Sobrum's works like Carrot Carrot, and features wacky horn and piano melodies. The chart is a clusterfuck of small notes amongst odd rhythms, having the same 15.6 difficulty as its Sun counterparts. It's always nice to have some genre variety in the boss songs, and Sakuzyo and Sobrum gladly provide it here. After completion of the gate, Uni seems a bit tired, but tells the player not to worry. Maybe that glitch we saw earlier was onto something after all. On March 19th, 2026, Gate Luminous appeared. Upon starting the gate, Uni tells the player that Navi has something to tell them about Uni's condition, but Uni gets distracted by the altar rhythm appearing, so it'll have to wait for now. We've almost caught up to present day in terms of Chunithm's history, but we can take one more trip back in time to Luminous. In Chunithm Luminous, the situation was getting absolutely insane. Two iconic and difficult boss songs challenged the players. First was Acid God by Yuta Imai. a blasting hardstyle track coming in at 15.4, it is surprisingly technical despite the heavy music style, though certainly features some power sections as well. Some parts of the chart even reminded the writer of the NamuWiki article of the Joe Fight master chart. A fantastic song and great boss song for Luminous. The second was Forsaken Tale by Tapazolite. The final boss of Luminous Plus, this is the first song to ever officially be rated 15+, with a constant of 15.7. Though by the current scale, it was not actually the first song that would be classified over 15+ later when the difficulties were adjusted. Unlocked as a secret episode, this song features an iconic vocal and Tapazolite's signature full-flavor-esque hardcore style. As you might expect, being a limit break song, the chart is disgustingly difficult, and being at 222 BPM, it allows for both power and tech sections, including some heavy crossovers and dense flick sections. It's just a tough and fast boss song. These two songs were connected in the unlock method of Forsaken Tale, so it was only natural that these would get a follow-up in the gate. But how do you follow a limit break song up? While not above Forsaken Tale in terms of raw difficulty, Phantom Crisis certainly tries its best to follow it up, at least musically. The godly combo of Yuta Imai and Tapazolite provide a driving and ominous hardcore song that will surely support a challenge. The chart provides some difficult crossover sections and power checks, with the chorus going absolutely all out. This is definitely one of my favorite songs out of the Linked Verse event. It goes super hard. Upon completion of Gate Luminous, Navi tells the player that while connecting to the new music will indeed give Uni the chance to restore Chunithm in their verse, the more verses they cross, the thinner Uni's existence is stretched. If this continues, Uni could disappear forever. Navi apologizes for suggesting the patch back in Gate Paradise, but Uni instead thanks Navi for giving her the ability to restore Chunithm, and decides she'll still go through with it. So, it's time to finish the job. On April 23rd, 2026, the finale would begin. When we arrive at Gate Verse, Uni seems notably tired. Navi asks if she's okay, and Uni asks Navi if this gate will give them enough energy to restore Chunithm. Navi says yes, but cannot guarantee her existence will hold on until then. Uni asks Navi to watch over Chunithm if something happens to her, and we connect to Gate Verse. Composed by Rintaro Soma and Chroma is Gesso, loosely translated to Moon Funeral. This song is an absolutely stunning duo artcore piece, with seeming melodic and thematic nods to some of the composer's previous works, like Tsunagite and several of Chroma's space-themed songs. Honestly, this song is amazing, a beautiful cap to the Linked Verse event. At 15.5, it's still tough, providing a technically difficult second half to overcome. The gate completes, and Uni is still here. Navi used some of the energy from the gate to keep Uni alive, against her wishes, but now there isn't enough energy to restore Chunithm. Navi suggests an alternative. Uni and the player will generate their own song. You'll generate a song from your experiences together. I'm sure that the energy from your own story, not one that you borrowed, will be something extraordinary. Isn't there a sound that's been at your side all along? Canon Oguni returns with Chunithm, at a difficulty of 15.5. A much more upbeat and melodic piece than some of the hardcore we've been hearing, though that doesn't mean it isn't tough. The master is characterized by flurries of fast notes, much more of a power check chart than one might imagine from the sound of the song. A thematic conclusion to the story of Uni and the player, and one that celebrates their time spent together. The song concludes, and the final gate is complete. Right? Apologies for interrupting this tender moment, But the fact hasn't changed that the gate's energy is supporting your existence. If we carry out the transfer, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to keep maintaining your existence. Everything will be resolved one step at a time. Next, let's converge the results of the approximate verse. Before, Uni, you prompted the player to take a divergent action. By choosing these songs, players branched into many approximate verses. So, remember the survey? Back all the way in the first gate, Uni asked the player what their favorite rhythm game was. Now, all the way here in Gate X verse, completing Chunithm unlocks a crossover song from the game you selected. That's right, every game in the list of games you could select got a crossover into Chunithm for this event. So, what did each game cross over? Well, the first one we saw up here was a bit of a jump scare. Yeah, so Pandora Paradox and Mew 3 from Gekimai are the crossovers there. Crazy picks to bring over such huge boss songs from the other games. I won't be analyzing these charts here, but as you might guess, the chart for Panpara is fucked up. The full list of games was Gekimai, U-Beat, Groove Coaster, Waka, Archaea, Paka Paka Passion, Demo, DJ Max, Figros, and Muse Dash. Some of that stuff is popular, but I'm sure some of you are thinking, what the heck is a Paka Paka Passion? I'd say the selection of crossovers was mixed. You have some stuff that seems pretty obvious, like Alter Ego from Archaea and Marigold from Demo. But games like U-Beat and Paka were so wild to be there in the first place, it didn't really matter what the song that they picked was. But why did they even give us this stuff in the first place? You'll recall Navi mentioned the approximate verse. Players get given songs from the games they chose in the survey, and they can now conduct them to other players. Basically, whatever song you got from the survey, you can unlock it for other players by matching with them. So, it was time to start gathering up all the songs. As you might expect, this took a bit, as lots of players selected popular games like Gekimai and Archaea, but stuff like Paka and Groove Coaster were pretty tough to find. Sega actually has some people on staff that help out in events like this, though usually a little later down the line. The Fumin Boys. These staff players will be in possession of conduction songs, and the Chunithm Twitter will announce at what time the Fumin Boys are playing, and what songs they're distributing. You even get a title for matching with the Fumin Boys. Truly the heroes we need. It took most of the day for anyone to collect all the songs, and when they returned to the gate, they were greeted with a new challenge. Entering gate Reverse, the glitch is encountered again. She thanks you for supporting Uni so long, but must stop the player from going further. At the rate she's going, Uni will restore Chunithm and resume updating it. As the game evolves, it will become something unrecognizable. The glitch suggests that Uni will be happier in this world, but that isn't what Uni wants. The glitch decides to show the player a chart from 10 years into the future. So, let's travel forward. This time the player is face down with Chunithm Ultima, level X. The rules of engagement have now changed. Normally, linked verse can be challenged over the internet with other players in different game centers. But not this time. This time, the participating players are forced to locally match with each other for linked verse, meaning they need to be in the same arcade. It had already gotten late on the day that Chunithm Ultima was discovered, so we'd have to wait a day to see this behemoth challenged. The next day, ranker Kifuyu teamed up with another squad of players to take on Chunithm Ultima. The chart was even more brutal than the master, with an absolutely ridiculous power check ending. It would take the effort of the whole team to keep one of them alive and take the clear. Kifuyu manages to hold on with the help from the other players, and the first linked clear of Chunithm Ultima is recorded. Something I would like to mention at this point is how insanely difficult these clearing conditions are. All the players that Kifuyu is playing with are near or at the top end of the game, with some of them being just a few decimals of rating behind Kifuyu, and they were failing almost immediately at the beginning of the song. The consistency needed to clear under these conditions is unreal. It was also revealed shortly after the first clear that Chunithm Ultima is a 15.8, the new hardest chart in the entire game. With Chunithm Ultima defeated, Uni returns to normal and realizes she missed the analysis, but doesn't really think much of it. She briefly considers staying in this world, saying that there's a feeling for her to do so deep in her heart. But in the end, she decides to return to her verse and restore Chunithm. But Navi suspects something is wrong. Will this conclusion lead to the future she wanted? I can't help but feel something has been overlooked. Maybe if you met her again, that's when, one more time. The players were confused. Surely there couldn't be more than this. However, while those in the arcades were fighting hard to clear Chunithm Ultima, some astute observers started to notice something. Energy load, 25%. Energy reading 100% will trigger... Rampant speculation kicked off immediately, but the leading theory was clear. A 4-person, local, linked verse clear of Chunithm Ultima would be required. An extremely difficult condition, requiring the best of the best players to perform to perfection on the new hardest chart in the game. The next day, a squad consisting of rankers HPS, Kifuyu, Shiro, and STR would battle to see 100% energy load. After the Chunithm Ultima 4-player clear, a new cutscene would immediately start. Too much energy was generated, and the link unit overloads, revealing the true form of the glitch to be Ixia, Uni from the Chunithm of the future where the world is about to end. Uni's body has ended up here with the player and Ixia and must be sent back, but there isn't enough energy. The player suggests generating a song with Ixia, who tells the player she's no longer the Uni that we know. However, the player thinks that deep down, she's still in there. Ixia steals herself and prepares to show the player what has become of the world. A memory of Chunithm's prosperity and what led to its demise. This is one possible form that Chunithm could reach too. If you can accept such a future, one that you cannot bear to look at, one that you want to avert your eyes from, show me that you can retrace it with your fingertips. Melodinic by Onoken, Chunithm's first level 16, immediately surpassing Chunithm Ultima as the new hardest chart in the game. This is the Chunithm from the end of the world. This challenge is unlike any other we've faced so far. The difficulty of the link has been made even harder, requiring not just 100 combo, but 100 Justice Heaven to get health back. Justice Heaven is a hidden EX-like score in Chunithm that is on a timing window more precise than a regular Justice critical, and you must now hit them to heal. Just one more way this challenge brutalizes players and requires the best of the best. There is a lot to cover in this chart, so let's just let the first viewing of the chart by the Chunithm Ultima clearing squad kick us off. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Chunithm, you might be wondering why the players freaked out at the very first note. You see these blue guys here? These are mines. This is the first normal Chunithm chart ever to have mines. Mines up until now have only existed in the game's special chart mode. That special folder of songs is called World's End. Considering what we know about the story being the end of the world in this verse, this thematically links the chart to the World's End folder, implying that all these charts in that folder come from the end of the world. I absolutely love this. Finding a way to thematically tie your ultra super boss song into an existing part of the game that has been around for 10 years is like so above and beyond. They didn't need to do that. They could have just as easily not done anything with World's End as a theme, but they chose to link the story to that mode, immediately creating an in-universe reason for these oddity charts to exist and where they came from. I love this. It's fucking awesome. This is not all Melodinic has to offer though, so let's move a bit forward to later in the chart. So this is a little bit of a rhythm game culture thing, but to explain the freak out here, it's a bit of a trope that in rhythm games, during a new boss song reveal, they'll disappear the UI to make the first play a bit more cinematic and dramatic for the first run. A lot of games have done this, but this is the first time Chunithm has ever done it. In particular for Linked Verse, this is a bit of added difficulty and stress too, as you're now no longer able to see the health of the players. You just gotta play your best and hope you hold on. This chart is not one to disappoint, and it had one more major trick up its sleeves. This is also the first time we've had notes that go outside the playfield, increasing reading complexity a lot. This chart has absolutely no mercy. This squad of players wasn't able to clear Melodinic under these conditions, but luckily for everyone following along, the clearing conditions were going to be slightly relaxed the next day for both Chunithm Ultima and also Melodinic. And so it was time to assemble the Chunithm Avengers to save the world. The next day, a stream would get announced consisting of a huge team of Chunithm's best players. STR, JT, HPS, Haku, Starry, Kifuyu, Shiro, Takerun, and Non. They would team up to take down this behemoth of a boss song. Early on in the stream, they needed to get a few more people through Chunithm Ultima, so there were attempts on that interspersed between attempts of Melodinic. The Ranker squad put up a great performance right out of the gate with the relaxed conditions, and we actually got to see a bit more of the chart right away. At the midpoint of the chart, there's a massive pile of notes, before we get a very unique section that we really couldn't get anywhere else.
超えてる？超えろ32秒。超えた超えた超えた。はちょっと待って、やばいっすねこれ。
That's right, we have mind dodging in a real official non-World's End chart. Melodinic really just doesn't disappoint. There was actually a super deep run really early on in the stream, where we got to get a really good look at just what this chart could do.
ちゃんとつなげればだってここだけで1000、2000ぐらい回復できるもんね。だからほぼフル回復でいけるのか、ここからは。うまいよ。いけ、頑張れ。頑張れ。うわなんだいけそうじゃない？これ最後なんじゃない？これ最後っぽいです。
With what looked to be the end in sight, the rankers got to work clearing Chunithm and trying Melodinic more over the next while. Some players on the stream feed would swap in and out, and just a little over an hour later, with the squad of HPS, Starry, Shiro, and Kifuyu, this happened.
確かにね、謎の判定は結局謎の判定のままなんだよね。100コンボつながりさえすればされてると思う。多分いける感じ。
The first clear, with HPS surviving and bringing it home on the stream. Worth mentioning, Namawiki notes that this song has a note count of 5,716, the highest combo count of any single standard chart in a commercial rhythm game, surpassing the record set by Mayhem in Sound Voltex. A true limit break song through and through, and a stunning climax to this anniversary event 10 years in the making. It is a simply amazing and beautifully executed event, truly designed to celebrate the Chunithm series, and takes my personal #1 for rhythm game events ever run. So bravo Sega, what a fantastic show. Ixia decides to send Uni back to our verse with the remaining energy. The future is not always bright and beautiful. Rather, it may be cruel and senseless. Before long, Chunithm will cease functioning. I am reluctant to part with you, but this is goodbye.
この歌はどのデータベースにも該当しない。この声はユニの声。ユーニズムの機能が回復していく。そう、ユニはまだ信じてくれているのね。この世界の未来をまだ諦めさせてくれないなんて本当にわがままな子。プレイヤーさん、もう少しだけ頑張ってみるね。あの子の、いえ、私の未来を信じられるように。ありがとう。さようなら、プレイヤーさん。ねえ、ナビちゃんから聞いたよ、未来の話。私が帰った後、きっと大変なことがいっぱいあるんだねってことも。でもね、私を信じてみるよ。だってさ、そんな未来までユーニズムを残せたってことでしょ。さすがだよね。ねえねえ、先に褒めてくれてもいいんだよ。これで最後かな。ねえ、プレイヤーさんもさ、音ゲー好きなままでいてよ。私もずーっと好きでいるから。次会う時までの約束。